The Oklahoma City Thunder steal game one of the NBA postseason. Was this the Pelicans' best chance?
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, media member, and Inside the Thunder beat writer, Rylan Stiles. Follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LO ThunderPod. Folks, the Oklahoma City Thunder come away victorious in game number one, but not in the way you think, because they were able to just squeak by the Pelicans in an absolute rock fight. Today's show is brought to you by our good friends over at Game Time. Go download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. This was the absolute best game of the weekend. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Oklahoma City stole the show. The crowd was rocking. The fear that the Thunder could not reach that nostalgia level, could not get back to its old ways, was put to bed in game number one against New Orleans. This crowd was fantastic. They did their job. And the Thunder win game number one, 94-92. They don't even crack 100 points, but they invent another way to win. That's been the story of the season. The story of the season has been finding ways to win, has been adapting to games. They've won defensive battles. They've won shootouts, but they had never won a game in which they were held under 100 points until tonight. And this was a playoff game in every sense of the word. 20 lead changes, 13 ties. The game was played within 10 points for the full 48 minutes. Pelicans grabbed a 7-point lead. Thunder's largest was 10. And, you know, there were some whistles that didn't go the Thunder's way. But ultimately, this was a game in which the Thunder showed a lot of resolve. And I think that there's going to be the same messaging on Locked On Pelicans. Like, they're going to say the same thing that we're saying in Oklahoma City. You look at this game, and this is the worst the Thunder are going to play. They made a lot of mistakes. They did not hit their open shots. This is the worst they're going to play. And they still were able to win with two rookies closing games in the playoffs. Think about how crazy it is. Your closing lineup was two rookies, a sophomore, Lou Dort and Shai. That's what you were doing at the end of a playoff game. And you won. The uncommon maturity and the testament of the 82-game season proved true in this one. You go through this game, the Thunder were out-rebounded 52-44. The Thunder, did create more turnovers technically, 14-13, but the 13 number is out of the ordinary. Though the Thunder did win fast break points 20-7 and points in the paint 42-36. They lost second chance points 24-11. And the shooting splits break like this: 43-31-76 for OKC, 38-28 and 77 for New Orleans. There are a lot of different branches to go from this game, but the bottom line is this was not the Shai you expect. Yes, it was 28 points. Yes, it was 6 rebounds. Yes, it was 4 assists. But 3 turnovers, and they were in the fourth quarter, and a -1 in his minutes, 0 for 3 from 3 and 45% from the floor. That's not what you expect from Shai. And down the stretch of this game in the fourth quarter, that was not what you would expect. But yet, even as things are not breaking his way, he makes the 2 biggest plays in the night offensively by hitting the tying shot in the mid-range and the and one to go ahead. Just like you saw in Madison Square Garden a couple weeks ago. This team just finds ways to win. So, how did they win this game? It was pretty simple, right? You hung in defensively in that first half where you played fantastic defense. And I don't think that the Pelicans did. It was the dead even 43-43, dead even 17-17. The Thunder missed a ton of wide open looks. The Pelicans had to work for everything, and their open looks were from Zeke Naji. 1 for 4 from him. You live with those. Like, that's what you give up. That's what the season's shown you this year, is that you have to give something up. You're willing to give those looks up. Whereas the Thunder, they had 2 wide open Kenny Hustle corner misses. Isaiah Joe goes 1 for 3 from 3. Right? They have, Gordon Hayward, we'll talk about him, 9 minutes of little to nothing. Like, the Thunder are going to play better than this. Can the Pelicans? That's the question of the day. And maybe you think so. But when I look at Brandon Ingram, who's held to 13 points, will he be held to 13 points again in game 2? I would not bet on that, even if I was Jonte Porter. But I also wouldn't bet on him having a superstar performance in this series with a guy like Lou Dort, who is the perfect counter to Brandon Ingram, playing up under him, being a pest, fighting through screens, and being the guy to just absolutely torture him. On the flip side, this is where these same conversations are going to be had in New Orleans. If you're the Pelicans, you got to feel really good about how Herb Jones defended Shai yet again. And Herb Jones was just great again. The Pelicans had a great game plan for Shai. They defended Shai really well. So let's concede that. Let's just say that the 2 stars in this series, because there's no Zion, the 2 stars in this series are taken out of their element. From there, you had a 5 3-pointer Trey Murphy game. The Trey Murphy game that I have sounded like a broken record on this entire week. Every guest, every pod, folks, we've done double-digit pods in 1 week, and on every single one, we talked about Trey Murphy. You got the 5 3-pointer night from Trey Murphy. You got it. You got the good game from Valanciunas, which has not happened when these 2 teams have faced off. It was not enough. And it wasn't as though the Thunder had any outlier in a positive way performances. And it wasn't as though the Thunder played a clean game and executed perfectly. The Thunder will get better than this. How much better can the Pelicans get from this game? This was their shot. This was their shot to grind this game to a halt. And it's games, if you want to pull off the upset of a series, you had to have this one. No matter when this series ends, whether it's in 4 games, in 5 or 6 or 7, the Pelicans will look back on this and say, yeah, we had to have that one. You had to have that one. You didn't get it. And historically, first round game 1s go the way of the winner of game 1. And the Thunder did that. The Thunder took care of business, even if it looked ugly at times. And believe me, this game looking like a college basketball game for certain spurts looks ugly. And when you look at this stretch where the Thunder go on a 5-minute scoring drought in the playoffs and still win, it should leave you more positively than anything else. I don't believe that these bad stretches of offense are going to be sustained. I don't believe that the missed open corner threes are going to be sustained. So if the Thunder get better offensively and look like the top 5 offense that they've been all season long, and they're already playing this level of defense, then take a step back and breathe a sigh of relief and move on about the series. But there's a ton to dive into. This is going to be an oak tree, and we have 2 days to break it all down leading into game number 2. It's going to be fun to watch what's going to go on in this series. But I look at this Thunder game. Was it perfect? No. Was it good enough to win? Yes. And that's what great teams do. If you're sitting here down on the Thunder, and I can hear you typing away about every flaw the Thunder had, and I can hear you in the comment section typing away, clacking on your keyboard, being just down on this team. If that's you out there, listen to me, church. Think back to when the Thunder were on the other side. When the Thunder lost close playoff games. And this is not to compare this Thunder team to other great teams, but they are number one seed in the West, and they've won 57 games. And what everyone, to a man and woman and person and human and life form, agree, covered all my bases there, is the toughest West we've ever seen. So if this is the toughest West we've ever seen, this is a team that won 57 games in it. When you lose to the Warriors, when you lose to the Spurs, when you lose to those teams in the postseason, how many of those 4 games did you feel like it was right there? That's playoff basketball. That's playoff basketball. These games hang in the balance for a reason. And when the game was in the balance, what happened? 2 rookies made the 2 biggest plays of the night, and your MVP candidate made 2 of the toughest buckets of the night, and you won the game. So the Pelicans fan base, the Pelicans media, and the entire city of New Orleans can feel as though they were right there and they should have won the game. And to a large extent, they're right that they should have won the game. But the game is not played on what should have happened. The game is played on what did happen. What did happen is the Thunder had enough resolve to win. Ask any Houston Rockets fan about 0-27. But you did miss 27 threes. And that Warriors team capitalized on it. Brandon Ingram did have a bad night, and the Thunder capitalized on it. While the Pelicans did not seize the opportunity of a top 5 offense in the NBA scoring less than 100 points. I know that in a game like this where the underdog keeps it close and has the best night of the best game of the weekend, you're going to tend to focus on the higher seed and say, well, what went wrong? But the bottom line is a top 5 offense in the league that is built around offense in the NBA, which has an offensive problem of being too offensive, scored less than 100 points. And you didn't win. Are you going to do that again? Will that happen before this series is over? I don't think so. And if you can't win this game, when will you win? Not to say the Thunder are going to sweep, but you got to get 4 of them, not 1. Right? So if you had to work this hard to have a chance at 1, can you get 4 before the Thunder get 3? That's now the math problem. Can you get 4 before the Thunder get 3? A Thunder team who has never gone on a 4-game losing streak all season. A Thunder team who's only been on 1 3-game losing streak all year, which included a streak that did not have Jada or Shai playing in any of the games. Right? Can you beat them 4 in a row? To beat this team 4 in a row, you had to win this game tonight, and you didn't. You didn't. Let's talk about this game coming up some more, including the rotations. The Thunder still went deep. We'll talk about that coming up. But first, I want to say right now about our good friends over at Game Time. Check out Game Time. It is fantastic, folks. I love it. I think it's great for the NBA specifically because when you look at the NBA, even in the playoffs, you just saw what Kawhi Leonard did in LA. You never quite know who's going to be suiting up, what the injury status is up until game time. And folks, Game Time will deliver you the latest availability for tickets in the sense of you can wait till the last minute and get great deals on your tickets guaranteed. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed at Game Time for sports, concerts, theater, movies, everything you need a ticket for, you can get on Game Time. Check it out today at Game Time by going to the Game Time app. And when you do, when you create your account, you will be able to benefit from using code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed, all in pricing right up front, so you know for sure what the fees are and what the outlook is before you go to the cart and check out. You also have zone deals and you have a view from your seat. You have everything you could want in Game Time. Go there right now to the Game Time app. Terms and conditions apply. Create your account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Go download the app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed at Game Time. Also want to say right now about good friends over at Monopoly Go, I have to admit, I have a competitive side. And Monopoly Go lets me express that competitive side because you are playing against your friends, having a leaderboard, and trying to play Monopoly with a modern twist, a nice twist to Monopoly. Because Monopoly, it's tough to get everyone in a room to play a game of Monopoly, but what you can do is have it on your phone. You can download it like 150 million other people have and play it there and build your cities, build your boards, build your money, most importantly, while also pulling off these bank heists on your friends and causing havoc on their cities and climbing their leaderboards. So check it out today at Monopoly Go. Go download Monopoly Go right now on the App Store or the Google Play Store. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you, talking Thunder basketball. This was a resolving win, but a win that still had some adjustments to be made. And let's talk rotation. I think that's what a lot of people are going to want to discuss today. The Thunder stuck with what typically they have done, a typical Mark Daigneault vehicle. And they went 10 deep almost immediately, and they finished with playing their starting five plus Isaiah Joe, Kenrich Williams, Gordon Hayward, Cason Wallace, Aaron Wiggins, and Jalen Williams. 11 players that played tonight. Now, Kenrich played 8, J. Will played 6, and Gordon played 9. I think that there has to be a happy medium. Now, on the front end, Mark is a great guy, a very smart guy. I think the smartest coach to ever pace the sidelines for the Thunder, the best coach to ever coach the Thunder. But I would push back on playing 11 guys in this sense. Gordon Hayward. I know he's a veteran guy. I know that you tried to make it work. You traded for him. And in theory, which is why even on this show before the trade happened, we were advocating for a Gordon Hayward trade. In theory, Gordon Hayward is the perfect player for this Thunder team because he's played passable enough defense to stay on the floor. He's supposed to be the one to take you out of scoring lulls, to finish plays, and to help you navigate offensively in moments like this. And instead, he does nothing. So if that's what he's supposed to do, and he's consistently done nothing in terms of production, why are you going away from a guy like Wiggins who has performed offensively at all 3 levels, 3-point line, in the mid-range, at the rim? He's done some on-ball stuff, but of course is a more polished and better play finisher than creator. This is the playoffs. It's the first round. It's the 1 versus 8 seed, and you don't want to change and overcoach and dramatically shift anything. But if you're playing the Hornets or you're playing the Pelicans in the playoffs, there's no disputing who the better player is. I don't care about the history and the long-term view and what individual, what you might think about a player or how things are viewed internally. When the ball's tipped and there you are and you're running for your life, you've got to play your best players in the playoffs. And Aaron Wiggins factually has been one of your best players. He just has. I don't know why he doesn't receive minutes like one of your best players. And he's never really been able to get that since his rookie season. But he's produced like one of your best players off the bench. And in the playoffs, this stuff matters. This was a 2-point game. This was a 2-point game. I think you have to deliver those minutes to Wiggins, who can make a more impactful performance on both ends. Because while I'll acknowledge that Gordon Hayward's a passable enough defender and switched really well tonight and played a team style that you could really hide him defensively and him not toast you. Because we've seen in the postseason other guys get hunted and toasted in the playoffs. It's not the case for Hayward. He did enough defensively to stay on the floor. Wiggins is a plus defensively in terms of his versatility and his ability. And then offensively, no matter what their reputations are, Wiggins has outproduced Gordon Hayward. That's the only grip I have about Mark. That was it. This whole game. I thought he actually did a way better job than a poor job. The first thing I loved about the game from Mark was that he didn't overcoach. You look at this team, a top 5 offense scores 17 points in the first quarter. A top 5 offense scores 17 points in the first quarter. 43 points by intermission. And throughout that stretch, Mark was not sitting there calling a timeout every other possession and dwindling that timeout marker all the way down to 0 in a haste. He just let the game continue to play out because at that juncture, it takes a coach to understand there's nothing you can give these players when they're missing open corner threes. They're not trying to miss open corner threes. They're missing them. So the process was there from the Thunder, and I think he understood that, and that's why he didn't burn those timeouts. You look up at the halftime mark. It was that shot from Chet with a .8 where he had to use a use or lose a timeout. He had 5 timeouts left because there was no need to just call a timeout for the sake of calling timeouts. There was no problem to address outside of making your open threes, and you got to trust your guys to understand that. So I thought that he did a good job of not panicking and overcoaching during those tough stretches. And not killing any sort of flow it had because they were really in a rhythm defensively. They were communicating exceptionally well all night long, rotating extremely well all night long, fighting through screens and not having busted coverage through screens. Because even at times you can see where, like Lou Dort, for example, all night he was great at getting through screens and staying on Brandon Ingram. But at times, if you don't have good communication, that can be a detriment because if your teammates anticipating you to get stopped by the screen and needing a switch, and they anticipate that and switch, now you're doubling a guy for no reason. You have a wide open guy that he can have a safety net too. Whereas you need crisp communication to have that happen, even if you're not switching. And so I think that the Thunder did a great job of that, really great job of that. But with Mark, he made 2 mistakes tonight. I think personally, I believe that it was a mistake to play Gordon Hayward, and especially to have him as your first guy off the bench. I'll continue to beat the drum for Wiggins. Look, I could be wrong about this, assuredly. I'm not going to sit here and act like and preach to you as if I know more than the coach. I was very wrong about Darius Bazley needing more minutes. So I can be totally wrong about this too. But from my standpoint, I look at it and think that we've seen way more production from Wiggins this year than we have from Gordon Hayward. And so it seems like an easy solution. But they have a lot more data points and knowledge and kind of a intuition than I do. But the other mistake was, I think, the challenge. And this is a guy that's been great challenging calls all season long. But I didn't think that I thought that the challenge went kind of against Mark's philosophy in a lot of ways, where the reward was not worth the risk, because the risk was you give the ball to the Pelicans, which you did. Whereas if it's a play on and you don't challenge it, at worst you have a jump ball for Chet against Larry Nance, and I would personally live with that if I was Mark and if I was in that position. I'd live with that jump ball. Now, to Mark's viewpoint of being angry about this, I don't see how the NBA in a playoff game could mess this up so bad, where Mark challenges a call and the initial ruling on the floor was a jump ball. After review, they give the award position to New Orleans, but yet still charge Mark his challenge and his timeout. That is just completely asinine. I mean, that is the direct that's directly not the rule, where they made a change. It doesn't have to be a change in favor of the challenging coach. Just as like whenever you see a foul get challenged, and a foul's challenged and the foul goes from Shai to J-Dub. It's still a foul on the Thunder. Nothing changed, but you still win the challenge and keep your timeout, keep your challenge. In this game, they set it to the scores table right, but then later corrected it and said you lose your challenge and timeout. What that did was, in a 2-point game, you lose a timeout, you only have 1 remaining, which could have loomed large in this game. If you didn't have a timeout left, you had 1 remaining for the rest of the way instead of 2. Big difference, especially late in games whenever you can advance the ball, and set up your offense, especially for a coach who's excellent at out-of-timeout plays and silent out-of-bounds plays. So the NBA messing that up in the playoffs was just ridiculous. With as much time as we spend reviewing things, that no one signaled and stopped things and fixed that, it's ridiculous. But I think that the mark thing, people will just see 11 players played and immediately freak out because that's what society tells you to do. That's what the NBA world tells you to do. I had no problem with playing Kinrich, J. Will, anyone but Gordon Hayward. That was my big gripe. And to me, the Thunder, I think, will evaluate these things, as Mark said, post-game, and we'll see where they land in game 2. But other than that, I think that you should keep it closer to business as usual. That's the value of the Thunder being able to play such an adaptive style and being able to adapt to what lineups and coverages and looks the other team's giving them. So that's the thoughts on the rotation. Coming up, let's talk about this game and put a bow on things for today. We're still going to have a ton of podcasts about this game, bonus podcasts and daily shows and everything else. We're back on the Lockdown Thunder podcast talking about Prize Picks, our good friends over there. Prize Picks is awesome, and it's a great way to play daily fantasy sports. Go there right now because while March is over, April's beginning with a bang. NHL playoffs, NBA playoffs, and MLB's in full swing. You can right now win 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks whenever you place a $10 bet and make it into $1,000 with basketball, hockey, and even MLB today on Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Prize Picks lets you pick 2 to 6 players and you just project, are they going to be more or less than their Prize Pick projected numbers? And boom, if you're right, you'll win. It's as simple as that. You're not competing against other people. You're not going against sharks who understand fantasy trends more than you do. It's just you versus the projected numbers. Go there right now and check it out today at Prize Picks. I love it. Go download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONNBA for the first deposit match up to $100. That's download the app. Use code LOCKEDONNBA for the first deposit match up to $100. Go there right now to Prize Picks and use code LOCKEDONNBA. We're back on the Lockdown Thunder podcast on the Lockdown Podcast Network, your teams every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen. We're here for you talking Thunder basketball. You look at this game, and I think that Josh Giddey did not have it tonight. What's encouraging is this for Josh Giddey, to start out with a positive for him. I thought defensively, that's a Josh Giddey defensive game you can really get behind. It was the offense that was a problem. Now, maybe the offense is a problem for the rest of the series, and this is just not a series you can play Josh offensively. Maybe that's the case. But the fact that the defense was there, I was encouraged by for Josh. In terms of just the overarching themes left before we get into the really deep dive later on today and throughout the week heading into game 2 and beyond. The Thunder have to regroup, 2 days off. Now you have more time to install. Now you have more time to plan, because that was a quick turnaround to not find out your opponent for sure until Friday, install on Saturday, and go play on Sunday. I think that they will never admit that. They'll never use that as an excuse, but I just have to believe that was a little bit challenging, just a little bit. Now you have 2 days to install stuff and adjust the things. My biggest adjustment for the Thunder is going to be get into your actions quicker. If you're Shai especially, use your first step drive. And from there, then you can get into the dribbling and the herky-jerky stuff. Or, most importantly, you get downhill quickly, earlier in the shot clock. Defenses are going to overreact and collapse because you're such a great driver, such a great player, that then you can get the kickouts. And then you can really loosen up the defense. The Thunder did not shoot the ball well inside the restricted area. That's going to change. But I think that you just cannot miss the forest through the trees here. This was still a fantastic game when the crowd was rocking. The rookie stepped up. I don't think that inexperience is a big deal, because now you've seen it on the playoff stage. It's one thing to handle the adversity in the regular season, but to handle it in a moment like this and find a way to win was just a cherry on top and a stamp of approval that this team is not going to be defined by their sheer lack of experience. But I think that you got to get into your actions quicker. Chet is going to have to knock down threes, which he took 6 of them, but a lot of them came early on, none late. I mean, he had 4 in the first quarter and 2 the rest of the game. Some of those went in and out, and if those shots go in, it changes things. And I think that if they're not going to guard Giddey with Valanciunas, you have to take a breath, take a pause, go to a 5-out, and get the ball to Chet and just let him operate. Or just put Valanciunas in more actions than you did, and then use Chet as a screener more, a genuine screener more, and then have him either roll or pop. These are all things I think that they're going to do. So the Thunder are able to win with key adjustments that they can make in game 2 and adjustments that are not going to be profound. Like this is not stuff that is abnormal. This is not stuff that we haven't seen from them. All stuff that they've repeated and done throughout this season and as a collective unit. But I cannot wait to continue to cover this series. It's been a lot of fun. You guys deserve this. A lot of you in the comments, I've seen you listening to the show since I took over in 2020. So a game like this was awesome. Let's get to a few of your takeaways from RK. That was clearly not the Thunder's best game, but understandable with the largest crowd we've heard all weekend. What concerns are there from a young team being too amped up? Yeah, I mean, I think that the start, it's tough to say they were too amped up because of how excellent they were defensively. Like on one of the floor, they were genuinely excellent, and on the other end, they missed open shots. Was that a crowd thing? Was that an experience thing? Was that a too amped up thing? We'll see. But this is a bad shooting night from the Thunder. Like, that's the bottom line. I think that you should really go back and rewatch this game now without the anxiety, without the pressure on every possession, without the uncertainty. Go back and watch that game and look at how many clean looks the Thunder actually got. And it was a lot. We'll continue on with your takeaways. Hawk says, OKC played tight. Definitely not their best game, but they were able to get a win. It's huge. Feels like the Thunder stole one. The Thunder did steal one. Like, this was a game that if you're the ones who want to pull off an upset, you had to get. And now you've changed the math problem on them. Let's talk another one. Let's take one more from Ben Glover. Not a good game, but in the playoffs, a win is a win. That's right. The playoffs are, in a way, like the March Madness tournament. Just survive in advance. You're one step closer to 4 wins. Once you get 4, once you go to round 2, and et cetera, et cetera. So you got to survive in advance. This was a podcast that came directly after the game. You're going to get a way more, thorough and planned out show, in the afternoon. But I just thought that you guys deserved a very emotional show for an emotional game, and then we'll hit it again tomorrow and so forth. So it's been a lot of fun. I cannot believe so many of you that have supported the show, and we dropped over 10 podcasts this week on Locked On Thunder, and you listen to them all. That's special stuff from you everydayers. Thank you so much. Follow me on Twitter at Ryland_Styles. And again, if you're going to be at any of these games, hit me up, Twitter DMs at me on Twitter at Ryland_Styles, and I'll get you a Locked On Thunder sticker if that's something that suits you, or just to say thank you for listening. Until next time, this has been a lovely cruise. Be good and be good to one another.